working group to come up with where ATVing should be headed, and that's the results. There's the executive order, and then there's the recommendations from the executive order.
Okay.
Which is helmets.
Okay. Well, we're live. This is Senate Transportation. It's Thursday, April 4th. We're talking about ATVs and helmet use. We're going to start out with Lieutenant Ballinger from State Police. Welcome. Morning. And I don't know if you just have comments or you're just here to answer questions. Or, I mean, the basic question is their helmets are required. Does the state police have an issue about not having them not be required?
I think that generally speaking, the state police would be in favor of keeping the requirement to wear helmets. It's part of the safety system that protects operators as well as occupants. I think that the UTV with the roll cage as well as the seat belts are designed to keep both operators and occupants safer. However, that is assuming that all operators and occupants use seat belts at all times, which doesn't always happen. So in the event of a collision or a rollover, a helmet would afford more protection to both the operators and occupants.
And this came up yesterday, is who does enforcement on ATV trails? Is it like FAST, or is it different, or is it state police or local municipal sheriffs?
I think generally it would be, I believe that VASA contracts with sheriff's departments to do the enforcement on the trails.
Okay. Which is the same as what FAST does for snowmobiles, I think.
Well, state police and Fish and Wildlife also do the VAST trails.
Okay. Yes.
Frank Stanley, Government Affairs, VASA, Vermont ATV Sportsmen's Association. Our main enforcement is from the wardens, and where we can't get coverage from them, we use the sheriffs. We do yearly contracts, yeah.
All right. Then, Chris, when they come out on the roadways, it's all law enforcement as far as whoever's there.
Whoever has that area of responsibility.
Yeah. And what Newport has been a nice addition to the community. We've enjoyed that, and always kind of makes me smile when I see those.
The city has allowed them.
They actually have a very broad route that they want. They want to include more merchants and all. And to be fair, when it first started, I didn't think it was going to last very long because there was a lot of bad actors. But I think that they've done a very good job of policing themselves. Like anything, you're probably gonna, still. I mean, there's laws for a reason. People don't always follow them, but for the most part, I think Newport feels it's gone pretty well. How law enforcement, what your guys' interaction has been with that, but we've been appreciative of the business that is provided.
Okay. Senator Chinden has a question.
Yesterday, Senator Perchlik, you used the key term that I wanted to bring up now is, are we relitigating something that was already decided some time ago, or have the technologies or commonalities of these roll cages changed enough to reconsider this? I would just ask maybe the sergeant in front of us, I don't know if that's your title, was this already duly considered and it was deemed some time ago, and how recently that we do want to require helmets for these roll cage vehicles?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about whether or not there's been advancement in the technology of the UTVs.
But your testimony earlier, so even with the roll cage and the seatbelt, there's other times that keeps you inside the ATV, but maybe not protect your head if you were to hit a rock or if this thing was to flip over.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak to my experience as the commander of the State Police Crash Reconstruction Unit. We respond to these types of events, and again, the helmet is just another piece of safety equipment that may protect you in the event of a collision or a rollover.
Does that answer your question, Senator Chinden?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe the other witnesses might speak a little bit to that. I'm wondering if we're covering ground that's already been duly considered, and not worth revisiting.
Well, we do know it was considered before, so we're just seeing if there's any, we are reconsidering it as far as that holding testimony, but just, yeah, to see if there's any update what people are saying. So unless you have anything else.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Do former Representative Norris, do you want to go next? I think this is somewhat connected to your work.
Sure.
Your constituent that were here, so you can
Yep.
tell your position on this.
Okay. Can you hear me? It's been a while since I've Zoomed.
No, sounds great.
Just a little history. The topic of ATV helmet laws was during the 2019-2020 session. That was when I was representing Addison 1. I don't expect anybody to remember I was there, but I spent 3 terms in the House. So the rules at that in the T-bill that year were increase the registration cost, then must have a TAD, trail access decal, and must wear a helmet. At the time that it passed, there was no real description of helmet. So when it was on the floor for second reading, that's when I first noticed the ATV requirements, and so I asked one of the members of the committee, Transportation Committee, about it, and she kind of indicated that this were only on VASA trails, and so I thought, well, this doesn't affect the town of Benson because there are no VASA trails in Benson or technically Addison County, where I had lived previously. But when it finally became law, it indicated that all ATVs and UTVs in the state were going to be under those requirements. So that summer, I had a conference call with the VASA president. I believe he's changed now, but and their lobbyist and the Fish and Wildlife Commissioner Porter to discuss the definition of what type of helmet was required, since riding in a side-by-side with rollover protection and seat belts didn't seem to warrant a full face helmet like a motorcycle helmet. They did agree finally and changed. I believe there was an amendment in the following session. They changed it so that UTV helmets were ASTM standards, which is similar to rock climbing helmets, things like that, and not necessarily full face helmets like a motorcycle. So in the town of Benson, which at the time was one of my towns in my district and is now my town of residence, we have an ATV club, Champlain All-Terrain Sportsmen's. We call them CATS, of which I am one of about 100 plus or minus machines, which good share of them, we figure around 90% are side-by-sides, and the others are regular four-wheelers. This CATS Club was formed over 20 years ago. It's a private club not affiliated with VASA, and VASA has no trails in the town. Benson has their own ATV ordinance and no requirements for helmet use. Most of the roads in Benson are open to ATV use, with a couple of restricted roads for safety reasons. One is one of the paved roads and another is a dead end. Many people ride to the local restaurant, recycling center, and riding around visiting neighbors and looking for wildlife. CATS Club members come out in full force for Green Up Day, Family Day Parade, and the Halloween trunk or treat. They're fairly, I'm going to say, very good part of the town, even though there are other people from other areas that are members of the Cats. They're not all just Benson people. But personally, I have no issues with the helmet requirements on VASA trails. And in the towns that we have VASA trails, such as Newport, we try to ride as many of the VASA trail systems that we can each year. Such a great opportunity to see places in our state. I thank all of those involved in building trails, working with landowners, and maintaining them, especially with the rainy summer of 2023, which turned out to be a disaster for VASA trails. What I would like your committee to consider is the possibility of allowing towns to use their own ATV ordinance, if they have one, like Benson, without the restrictions VASA has on their trail system. If at some time in the future a VASA trail is developed in that town, then VASA rules will apply. Do we expect town people to wear helmets and get a VASA TAD when they will never likely ride outside of town or on the VASA trail system is unreasonable. Last summer riding season, the new game warden issued warnings on helmets and likely will be enforcing more this year. He's just doing his job as he is legally supposed to. I recall that when we worked on an electric bicycle bill, I found out that there was no law requiring bicycle riders to wear a helmet. So they could ride down Route 22A, one of the most dangerous roads in the state, without a helmet. Yet we side-by-side riders with roll bars and seat belts going approximately the same speeds need more protection. I'm just filling in for Lynn Bowen. She would have liked to have spoken. She's the one that I believe sent the first letter to one of your members to consider that helmets for side-by-sides are normally a little bit overkill. If you choose to wear one, that would be fine. But my real issue is that Benson is a town with its own ordinance. And if they chose to not require helmets, I think the town should be recognized for that. So, but thank you very much for listening and taking on this topic, because I recall my years up there that it's not easy, and I appreciate your listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Makes sense. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Norris? Okay. Thank you for that testimony.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. O'Connor, you're the president of VASA, if I remember correctly.
Executive director, but yes, with
Yeah,
VASA.
and you're back from your vacation last time we talked to you, if I remember.
Yes, a little different background this time.
So yeah, let us know what VASA thinks of this.
Sure, thank you again. And then for everybody in the room, Tommy O'Connor, executive director of VASA. The clear thing for us as VASA is we do have policy related to helmets, regardless of machine. The primary reasoning behind the helmet and UTV side-by-sides, even with roll cages and seatbelts, is through significant research. A majority of emergency room entrances from rollovers across the country are from striking said roll cage, not necessarily, anything above a simple rollover obviously becomes more involved with collisions, things like that. But in simple rollover situations, majority of ERs are reporting that the use of a helmet stops the head from striking the roll cage unprotected. So we will always have a policy. And I have spoken with Christopher Putney, who is the president of VASA, and that is a new, as of the end of 2023. And we have no interest in changing that ourselves. And then on top of that, we agree that if there is ever state statute put in place, we are to follow it. So if this statute is to be adjusted, amended, etc., we're still not changing. So that's our viewpoint. We've also spoken with Yamaha, Can-Am, and Polaris, which are three of the top manufacturers we deal with registered machines. And in all of their owner manuals, they clearly state that helmets are a great idea, specifically in UTV side-by-sides, to stop the striking of the roll cage as well as foreign objects entering the machine. And then the final piece of conversation just to share with today, we at VASA pride ourselves in being an education and safety organization before we are trail maintenance. And with that, as part of knowing we have a state statute as well as a policy, we recently teamed up with Axle Off-Road. They're a helmet company. And for the open air ATVs that have the DOT requirement, that is through this partnership. They do create a DOT helmet, which is why we launched it. And then they have the standard helmets that meet the UTV side by side. And we went with them because if they're a member of VASA, there's a code they can receive to get a discounted rate, which makes it more affordable as well. So safety is our priority. We're doing everything in our power to make sure our riders are safe. And again, we have the policy, but we also recognize state statute and will always operate under that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions for Mr. O'Connor? I think that was pretty clear. We'll bring you up to speed later.
Thank you. Sorry.
I have an unrelated question. Since you're here, Mr. O'Connor, about how, if you're seeing any electric ATVs, four-wheelers coming on. I know that they're for sale, but I don't know if they're just so expensive and so rare that you're not really seeing them. Are they starting to actually enter the marketplace?
Yeah, we are starting to see them, not obviously in large amounts. The main concern that riders are telling us is if they want longer time, they have to do the extended battery, which is an add-on. And the problem with that is due to the weight of the batteries. When you're adding those additional pieces, you're getting close to the statute in regards to dry weight that the machines are allowed on the trails to maintain their stability and their sustainability. So we're keeping a close eye on that. We have regular communications with Polaris that does have one of those machines on the market, but we're not seeing a very high influx.
Okay, so that's I hadn't heard that was a concern, because if you get too heavy, then you're not allowed on the trails.
Correct.
Because they're no longer considered an ATV at over a certain weight.
Yeah, and it's primarily for the sustainability of the trails. It's what the network can handle so that we can work within our environmental conservation efforts that we have as a national set of guidelines from our NOVAC parent organization, if you will.
Okay, interesting. And I assume it's also there's no place to charge if you wanted to go on a longer ride when you're out on the trails. You're all limited to your battery. It's not like you can go into a town and fill up with gas.
Correct. And we have, I did have conversations with the Agency of Transportation through the Electrify Your Fleet grant. And we discussed that because we do operate a few of our side-by-sides as part of our maintenance program. And we discussed what that would look like. Unfortunately, we just could not get through that process because we also know that when you're using the machine not in straight and flat, the electric hours do different. We wanted to work with them, and we're discussing this spring, maybe piloting and finding a way to get one of those machines and do data to see what range looks like when you're actually carrying heavier loads or doing more technical terrain. Because VASA has that great, expanse of some straight and flat in the cities and then out in natural trail riding. So,
well, that's great. I'm glad to hear it, because when we had that fleet, we wondered if either electric snowmobiles or ATVs would be able to use that. So let us know if in your efforts to try to use the program, if you have any concerns about how we can make the program better. And then if you do get one, we'd love to have you back in to hear how it went.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions, we can go up 5.
Oh, do we have further? I don't have my.
We need a new agenda.
These guys, we're gonna let these guys go.